What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, and just having a flat-out good time. Memorial Day weekend, SJ, and there's always usually some extra shenanigans mixed in for folks. You've been having a good time with this little extra time off?
Yeah, not too bad. The weather wasn't ideal, but I was able to get that grill fired up and get the meat off before the rains came, and then even checked out, America's Pastime there this afternoon. But that did not, as far as the weather goes, it did not go well. And I guess if you're a Kansas City baseball fan, didn't go well either. They made a late run, but ended up dropping that 7-4 count, which getting down 6-0, it's going to happen. But still a fun time. Always good to get out to the ballpark and experience some. In-game action. And I'll always kind of say that about baseball, at least still keeps it affordable for taking the family out there. So I'll give them credit for that. You can still kind of do that and still enjoy your day. But man, I'd love Missouri to get their act together, because that would have been fun to have a little sports book out there, a little kiosk at least, and get some action going on those games, because there was plenty of hits and plenty of props to have been had today. So that would have been nice. Hopefully soon, supposedly before the end of the year, but I don't know. I just as the days go by, I wonder how things are really progressing.
Yeah, it's strange sometimes how those things happen. You get approval and now we got to jump through whatever million other logistical hoops apparently to figure this stuff out. But yeah, they weren't ready to just rip the tape off and let it fly apparently. So
I get not going the next day, but I mean it's been several months since the last election when it passed, so you'd think you'd have most of the things in order, and you can considering that numerous states have whatever guidelines in place and governing bodies. It's just like you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just kind of copy, maybe tweak a little bit here and there, and you're good to go. And considering a state like this where you already have plethora of casinos, brick and mortar standing, it's not like even a state like where I frequent a lot, in Nebraska, they didn't even have a lot of casinos, and they've already built them and they're up and running. So it's like, come on, let's give it the time here. Even Iowa, I know they had a little bit of gaming going on there, but they got their thing up and running pretty quick too once it was legalized.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, exactly like you said. It's should be a blueprint already there. You would think it'd be pretty quick, but who knows? I'm sure there are some things that we don't realize that are behind the scenes that have to happen. But taking a little while for that to get settled. I myself, not too much sports involved stuff here this weekend, but I guess I did on Friday night travel over to the Council Bluffs. The Iowa State Athletics Department always does a little what they call the tailgate tour, where they go across the state and just a little kind of pep rally kind of thing, and bring the coaches out and have them give a little spiel, and kids get their autographs signed and get some free stuff. So we did that. That was cool. Kids really loved it. It was good to see old TJ in his Schmedium polo. He was looking fit, though. I have to give it to him, man.
That's the thing. I mean, I know it's a small shirt, but at least there's several people that shouldn't. At least he's in shape. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah. It looked like he had trimmed even maybe a little bit more here recently. So he's
I went vegan.
He's doing good. Yeah, maybe. And then that wouldn't be this wouldn't be the state to do that in. Yeah. So we did that. We braved the world's best zoo on Saturday for a little while. There was a shitload of people there, but
I can imagine that. Yeah,
it worked okay. I was surprised. Like we pulled in, and we're like, oh, do we want to do this? We even considered just not even parking and leaving. But we did well. We went in, and it actually turned out okay. It seems like maybe we hit the right spots at the right time. I don't know. It wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be. And then I had a little kayak adventure yesterday too, so I'm a little sore. I got all the sports cliches, swimmer's shoulder, tennis elbow, whatever, all those things. It hurts today. I'm getting too old for that stuff, but it was fun. It was fun. It was a good time.
When you talk about that zoo, the crazy thing is seems like they're always adding stuff too. It's like, what more can they do? And then you go and it's like a totally different experience. So yeah, I guess icy hot, man. I usually buy that, at Costco or Sam's. Just get it in bulk these days. That's about all you can do.
Yep. It's it gets tougher and tougher every time. That's for sure. So yeah, hopefully you and your family had something going on, had some fun, whether it was just getting outside, or just relaxing, perhaps, or of course doing the also part of the weekend that we are here for, and remembering and honoring folks as well. So hopefully you had a good Memorial Day weekend. Gonna get at you a little info on what's going on in the sports world here on the show. We've got a few different topics to touch on. Of course, with playoffs going on still, we're going to talk a little college football, a couple brief stories there, and then a little bit of a kind of a media thing as well. I'll talk about a show that's coming to pass here as well. So we'll get into all that as we get rolling. Though we always like to talk about what's fueling us, of course, maybe through the holiday weekend and then through the podcast here as well. What we're drinking. SJ, I went and found some different stuff the other day. How you do. You just kind of go look and start browsing through the bins and seeing what's there and what's new and what kind of trips your trigger. And usually I'm just kind of looking more for styles that I kind of like. That's how I start usually. But I also will kind of focus on some of the breweries that I really love as well and see what they've got going on as far as different stuff. But this one was more on the style side that caught my eye. And it is a local brewery, the Empyrean Brewing Company. They're out of Old Lincoln, Nebraska. They had one on the shelf that was a Kolsch style ale with lemon. That's a limited collection. It's called Zookeeper, and some of the and it just worked out. I was going to the
after drinking that.
Yeah, it was wild. But some of the proceeds from this brew apparently were going to the Lincoln Children's Zoo. So that was the story behind this deal. But it is a good beer. I enjoy it. I always like a Kolsch, and they add a little lemon. It definitely has got a little bit of that tart kick. So if you're not a lemon person, you're not going to like it. But I did like the refreshing taste of it. Be great if the temperature was maybe 15 degrees warmer, then it'd really be good. But yeah, enjoying it. So shout out there to folks in Empyrean. What do you got over there?
I got a couple of things along these lines here. Well, this probably isn't new to you, but it's new to me. And you talk about looking around and finding everything. Man, I was a good 20 minutes deep in that place, just trying to. Because I mean, you go to it's nothing against any place, but you go to this. Typically, you go to what's close to your house, or what's on the on the way home from work or whatever. And I'm getting to the point where I was like, okay, I've tried that, and I'm trying to feel bad about myself. I'm like, damn, am I drinking too much here? Like, why have I tried all these? And I'm like, I don't know. To me, it seems like maybe they need to. And I kind of just in passing say, you guys gonna get anything new? Kind of just maybe planting some seeds there, because I just feel like they haven't really expanded too much. And of course, everybody's talking about supplies and all that. So whatever. But anyways, I ended up with a popular company there in your state, the Toppling Goliath. But I'm kind of on this. I'm trying to find basically hitting, and it was fine this weekend because the weather was not good. But I'm on the ultra beer kick. I'm trying to find something real light, like kind of just really trying to. Not necessarily. I mean, if I'm going to be, especially when I was, knew I was going to be tailgating and heading out to the ballpark, and I was like, I don't want anything too heavy. I want something light. And then just going to be spending a lot of days at the pool here in the summer, or just going on vacation, hanging out, whatever. So I'm kind of, my goal here is to find something that's like still beer. I don't want to go seltzer route. I don't hate them, but it's like one or two. And all the ones I've tried, honestly, I'm just like, after a couple, I'm like, I can't do anymore. I just not my cup of tea. So it's got to be more beer, beer heavy. So I found that elevated ale, they call it the AIM. I don't know if you've tried that one, but it's it's basically like their Mick Ultra version, where it's like, it's only and it's like a gluten reduced, almost gluten free type of beer. So I'm kind of with that too, because I've noticed, as the years pass, some of that times those heavy wheat beers, I'm just like one or two, I'm like, that stomach's rumbling. I gotta lay low on that one. But 95 calories, about 3.5 grams of carbs per serving. So it's right about 4%, a little under. So it's not, it's not like you could probably drink a few of these and be okay. So, but it's I'd known just like people really kind of who like this brand are kind of all about it. So I was like, I can't really go wrong with this one. So I ended up getting in, and honestly, it's a really easy drink. It's pretty smooth. I'm similar to that. It doesn't taste like it, but how easy it goes down is that Corona deal we mentioned a couple weeks ago. That summer brew they call it. So it's like that. I mean, there's a real easy drink. So I end up getting that pretty good stuff. I'll probably stick with that as long as I can find it, at least for a good, post lawn mowing beer, poolside beer, that type of thing. And then the other thing I wanted to mention with these things, like, and I get that every state has different can only sell so much alcohol per serving and all this stuff. But I don't know what it is. And I might have mentioned this a while back. I was trying to think. I was like, did I kind of go on a rant about this in the past? Maybe I have. But these 4 packs just piss me off. I don't know. Like I was like, okay, you go, four whatever, 16 ounces. Okay, 64 ounces. Just sell me, like whatever, 8 ounce cans. That's fine. Or whatever. Just get the same amount. I don't know what it does. These 4 packs just drive me up the wall. I don't know. It's just like because if I'm gonna hang out and we're gonna be doing something, like 4 beers isn't gonna do it for me. Then I got to buy 8, and then next thing you know, you've gone way too many past your limit there, and you're like, I didn't want to drink that many. So I don't know what it is. Just that 4 pack, just it's more a personal thing. It's nothing against anybody that doesn't. I get why they do it. I understand the laws, but I'd almost rather just sell me a crowler or something, and then I'll buy maybe a 6 pack of something else. I know it's like a trendy thing to do, and I think it almost is like seems more of a marketing thing where it's like they feel like, oh, 4, it's like it's unique, it's special, like this must be really good because there's only 4 of them instead of 6. I can't really come up with anything else because when you do the math, you can still package it in different ways, even if you're going to give me a little bit less, whatever. Give me 6, whatever, 6 12-ounce cans or whatever, or however the math adds up. If you want to give me a little less, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe some of that is more of the configuration of what they're trying to sell there, and of course, I think part of it too is like that whole mimic the European beer scene, the pints kind of thing, and sometimes I get that, but you're right. Like especially when it comes to beers that you're definitely going to drink quite a few of, like when it's more crushable. It needs to be a 6-pack at least. It needs to be, it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same, and especially, you're sitting there drinking them. You don't want to have a giant can sometimes. Like you just want the smaller one.
Well, that's part of it too. It's like I just want a little taste. I mean, a little 12-ounce can is good. It's like, well, you gotta, breaking out the tall boys, and it's like, well, it's a whole different a different thing there than just having a little bit of, a little can of Coors after you mow the lawn. It's a little different having especially when you're talking about something that's probably gonna have a little more kick to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say that one of the breweries I love is Confluence in Des Moines. That's almost exclusively what they sell is the 4-pack pints. So, but a lot of times too, though, those beers are ones that I'm sitting down to have one or two. I don't know. It's just a difference, I guess, in the sessionability of it, kind of thing. It is intriguing. I don't know, and it's always interesting to see how the trends change too, because we were so much on the glass thing for a while there, and now it's like almost everybody's gone back to aluminum and to cans. So it's just weird how that fluctuates, and now the packaging seems different as far as sizes, the slim cans, it just like everything changes all the time. I don't know what that is. Of course, I guess marketing people have to change things or else they stop getting paid, right? So maybe that's part of it.
I mean, I love a tall boy. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with an oversized can. It's just a matter of like, well, I mean, is it really depends on the situation. What I was looking for, it wasn't speaking to me that day, and I guess just maybe, and also it's all a part of like what. And I was honestly in the mood for a sour, and that's a lot of them come in that style because it's like more of the, and you're not gonna package a lot of extra because it's kind of a unique type of flavor. So I mean that's understandable as well. But I don't know, it drives me up. I mean, I'd rather just like one of those ones where like just give me, like I said, just give me a crowler or something like that. I'd rather just buy that. So at least I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. Because then if that's the case, then you just package one time and you get a little concentrated amount of liquid there and a little better flavor, at least to my mind. But I don't know.
It will be interesting. I think at some point you are going to see a lot more of that availability. I know some places do that, and I've even seen some convenience stores that have the little growler fill or whatever. But I could see that becoming more of a thing because everybody really loves draft beer. When it comes to especially some of these styles too, they're so much better when they're on tap. So.
Well, if you think about it too, just as far as from the to getting to the distributor from the actual where the beer is made, much easier to send them
Oh
a
yeah,
cake, probably, and then they'll be happy with that too. So
yeah.
I guess, I just need to maybe find a different location. Maybe it's on me, but either way, it is. I don't know, those 4 packs, that they're not my style
Yeah.
unless I'm getting like something, out of the sorts, or something, where it's like you're getting like over 10% ABV. Then that's something. But you're still talking between the 5 and the 7. I'd much rather have a 6 pack.
So solid point. All right, let's get into the playoffs here first. We'll start with the NBA playoffs. Here's how things sit right now in those two series that are going on in the conference finals. We've got the Pacers up 2-1 over the Knicks now. Knicks got one yesterday, 106-100, as they came back from 20 points down to win that one and get themselves back into that series. And then also the other series is 2-1 as well. The Timberwolves were able to run away with a game on Saturday against the Thunder, 143-101, and got themselves back in the mix in that one as well. As they'll be at home here as we're recording, they'll be playing tonight there against the Thunder to try to see if they can even that thing up. And then of course Tuesday will be Pacers Knicks again in the evening to see, and that's in Indiana. But yeah. SJ, you had an interesting comment because we were talking before we got rolling here about analysis of these games, and kind of funny sometimes the guys that are supposed to know are the ones that know the least.
Well, and of course they're not alone. You look on, and one of my favorite followers, I think you're along there with me, and a couple of them are either the awful announcing, or they're what was it? I think what they call it, freezing cold takes or something like
Yeah.
that, where it's just like basically say some dumb shit, and it's there. They bookmark it, they find
They
it.
got the
It's not, it
receipts.
doesn't
Yeah.
go away. But in this case, it was mostly on Barkley there. Just, I mean, and it's not even just this time. It's just over and over and over again. This, to me, I'm just like, man, this is. And I said it before when the show, when they kind of, everyone was freaking crying in their soup about it being, well, it was canceled initially, but then ESPN, I guess, is supposedly going to bring him over and have the show. But every day Barkley tries to tell you he's not going there. I was like, please don't. Like, they already have Kendrick Perkins. That's enough. We don't need another dumbass. And of course, Stephen A. is Stephen A. So that's not going to change, especially how much money they're paying him. I don't blame him. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Type of money he's bringing in, and that will lead to, something that, they're going to be letting go. That some of that money could be funded to a better programming. But I guess that's a different story. But back to the other night, just like, I mean, I know they're down. It looks like it's over because Brunson's in foul trouble. Pacers are just like, doing whatever they want, basically. And the weird thing about as much success as they've had in this series, which, I mean, they could easily be down 2-1 or maybe even 0-3 if you consider the first two games, how close those were. But without Halliburton, besides, I mean, I know he had a couple big shots, but overall, he has not actually scored like you'd expect him to, but they've still, been able to win. So that was more of the surprising thing to me, is like, I think he had like, 10 to 12, maybe 15 points there within the first 3 quarters. And they're at halftime, they're up by 20. So of course you look at it, and the thing that's always that was just outrageous to me. It's like, how much time do these guys spend supposedly? I mean, because they get a free pass every year during the tournament, and that basically they're just saying, "Oh, we're only on TV because Turner owns True TV and TBS and TNT, and that's why we're on here. We don't know anything about college." Well, they don't know anything about the NBA either, because at halftime they say it's over when it's only. I mean, and I say only a 20-point game because only 20 points is not that much when you have 2 quarters left to play in the NBA. How many games in the playoffs, let alone the entire season, or the team finds themselves down double digits plus, even 20 points more than that sometimes, and they end up coming back to win, or the other team blows. It's not unheard of. It's not like some crazy, feat that's never been done before. It literally happens like couple times a week. And even in the playoffs, it happens, every few games here. It's not like it's, so that, to me, that's why I was just like, man, you got to stop doing this crap just to get people. Like, it's almost like it's a shock value thing with him and Shaq, especially. And the bad part is that, to me at least, it seems like they've kind of really dragged down, Kenny Smith, and especially Ernie too, just to on that level. It's like, is this a show, or are you trying to do stand-up comedy? You think this is the improv? I mean, you're supposed to be, I get that it's entertainment. It's not like, hardcore analysis, X's and O's, but they did, at least when they started and for quite a while, they offered some type of like useful analysis and stuff that kind of talked about what was going on rather than just like, I mean, everybody, they say the talk's too political on ESPN and all that stuff. It's like that's literally all you guys reference and bring up the whole time on your show. So it's no different. So maybe they're in a good spot there at ESPN. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe fit in. I'm with you. And it was one. It's like, have you watched the playoffs? Like,
Yeah.
how many games have we
Especially
already
these
seen where that's
teams, like
happened?
these teams are like a damn, what do you call it? Like a EKG. Like both of these teams go up and
Yeah.
down like so much. It's not even like anything negative against them. It's just that's the way both of them play.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you had to know they were going to come back at least make a run at them. You
Yeah.
can't be like it's over, it's done. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
We've seen so many of those games where a team has come back already and won the game. So it's like, why would you, especially at halftime? Maybe if you're doing some break in, at the end of the third quarter, perhaps then you start to say things like that. It's almost like the thing I think that it has become annoying about that, and you mentioned like the transition from the analysis to fading more and more away from that, and I think this is probably part of the problem. I think too is like the societal wants, like they play into they're playing into more and more of like a fan's mindset of like, oh, we're done, like, and they're feeding into that shit, whereas you should be giving people the reality check that they need, by this proper analysis of the game, of how it's being played. That's what you're there for. And it's up for us. Joe Blow at home can sit there and say, "Oh fuck, we're done."
Overreact to
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well,
Yeah,
considering 3/4 of the people on the table are former athletes,
yeah,
they need to tell you what an athlete's thing is. Like you think the Knicks went into a locker room saying like, "Ah, it's over, we quit."
yeah,
Obviously not, because they wouldn't have played that way in the second half.
yeah.
Now it was they had their work stack. It was a tough ass there, and it wasn't nothing guaranteed. But yeah, you need the perspective of an athlete, and that's why they're there. If they can't offer that, then what good are they?
Exactly. Yeah, and why do you have that job? Because that's why you got it in the first place. So, it is annoying. I'll say with the college stuff, like, there are times where I do think it's funny and I enjoy like the banter a little bit, but I think the litmus test there too is if you're an actual fan of one of the teams playing, then
Yeah.
you start to think, when they go to that thing, you're like, God damn it, I want to hear something that's going to give me something here, because I'm pissed right now about how the game's going. I want you to show me what's actually happening on the floor, and then they're just making jokes.
Well, like, yeah, I don't get, you might not know everything about every team because most people don't, even a college basketball fan doesn't, but you have, how many days beforehand, what games are going to be on your network. Watch some film,
Oh
like
yeah,
take
they
some
should know.
time and do your job. Like that's more the annoying thing. I get that. Like, I don't know, who knew much about whoever, before the tournament started, like the Bucknell, the year they made a run, or
Mhm.
Maryland, Baltimore County, but just put on their games. Like, oh, we're going to see them this week, like what else do you have to do? Like, it's honestly not that hard of a job. That's what I'm like. And if you don't want to work that hard, like somebody else will.
Yeah, for that
So
amount of
please
money,
give
for
them the
sure.
chance. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting. Wild how that plays out, but yeah, certainly we know that these playoffs, more than any, maybe have been that kind of way,
Well, even
unpredictable.
look at the West. I mean, what Oklahoma City,
Yeah,
even the series before, they kicked Denver's ass, and then Denver pushed them to 7, and then they're up 2-0. I'm sure that they weren't on. They have their show is the Eastern Conference. That's their rights this year, but
hmm
I'm sure they're saying, "Oh, that one's over too." And then Minnesota, beats the piss out of it.
yeah,
That game was over in the first quarter the other night.
yeah,
and that's not only like I'm surprised because that from the betting aspects, you're like, who saw that shit coming? You're not saying that you didn't think Minnesota couldn't win, but to win by freaking 40 points or
no,
whatever they did, like that's a little absurd.
mm,
Like, I can see somebody saying, I can't believe that happened. That's fine, but I mean, the series was over after game 2, and now it's not. So I mean, there's the example right there. It does. You don't have to look very far to find out how this stuff happens, and it's like I just don't. I don't know. Like, maybe you just think you can say whatever you want because you think who you are. But
Yeah.
to me, and it's like I don't even find them that funny. It'd be one thing if you're actually funny. I mean, the funniest thing that happened is Shaq almost crapping his pants. Like that's the best thing they've done in like 2 months. There you go. That's your that's your claim to fame. Good job. You really see you at the Improv next
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah, no joke. But as far as the actual basketball is concerned, I'm not shocked because I did think that by no means, by no stretch did I think that the Pacers would sweep this series. Like, they're too close in the way that they've been playing. Obviously, the Knicks looked really good coming in to the series themselves, and the Pacers steal a couple early on, so you're thinking, man, they have one hell of an advantage here for sure. But I also didn't think, they're just going to continue to win these games. Like, probably not going to happen. So, going to be interesting. I think that game tomorrow will be really fun to watch. That'll be probably a good back and forth one there to try to determine. Because obviously, by the nature of how things go, if the Knicks are able to quote unquote steal that one, well, then you're right back at square one. So, very interesting series. The Thunder Timberwolves, I will say the other night I took a flyer on the T-Wolves winning as far as my bet was concerned, just because I thought also same thing. They're not going to get swept. Like I think they're
Well, now it's
Oklahoma
kind of
City's.
do or die too, so that's a good spot. Honestly,
Yeah,
that's if anybody listening, that's when you do it because you're like, it's not that far fetched, and also you probably got some decent plus money on that.
yeah.
So if you know a few bucks, you ain't gonna miss out on that, and hey, why not? I mean, you're not gonna go around saying beforehand like, "Oh, this is my lock,"
No,
but at
yeah,
the
yeah.
same time, it's like this is a good spot to take a flyer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In any series, realistically, when that's the case, you think a team's talented and like, yeah, they're down in a 2-0 hole, and here's the series kind of on the line, quote unquote, because you got to win one to really feel like you're still in it. Yeah, that's the place to do it. So that makes sense from a gambling standpoint. Yeah, and the way obviously nobody saw that coming. You'd be up 20 points at the end of the first quarter is just nuts,
Could
especially
you
against a
imagine
team
if
that
somebody
talented.
just pushed? Because I think it was two where I got it. Could you imagine if someone
Yeah,
pushed that up to like cover like even just like five or
yeah,
six?
yeah. Even
Yeah,
that, yeah.
and you would have been looking at like I don't even know what the straight out win was. Probably plus 4 or 5, probably plus 300-400. I don't depends on where you played it at, just because of the situation they were in. But man, yeah, you could have had a good night there.
Yeah, it is wow. I don't know. Yeah, it really could have gone a lot of money there for some folks if they were crazy. What was the?
It was two, and I don't know what every book had it as,
I'm trying to
but like
think here.
later
What
in the
I?
day, I played it at -2 for the Thunder to cover.
Yeah,
So I mean, if you push that up a few to for for the if you thought real confident in Minnesota and you had them winning by 3 or 4, you could have really made so even five
yeah.
because
What was?
of course hindsight it's easy to push that number up, but even just the straight out money line probably would have been at least plus a couple hundred depending where you're going.
Yeah, I think it was a plus a couple hundred because I don't see it here because on mine I had it grouped with the Randall getting over 18 and a half, but that was plus 297 with those two together. And that's
Yeah.
probably not the best, odds I could have got somewhere, probably
Right.
better somewhere
Just the
else. But
book you like to frequent,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
And there's yeah, I mean, either way though, like that's I mean, but bottom line is that's a spot to do because if you're not going to win there, next game is not even worth looking at because that definitely be over after that one.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see tonight, obviously, if the Timberwolves can win another one at home and make it even more interesting. There, I do certainly think that the Thunder are the better overall team, and at this point, I hate to say it. Obviously, I think I have a little bit of leanings just because where Halliburton's from. I'm going to root for the Pacers just because it's kind of fun, but I do think the Thunder. Like, if you're going to put money now on a team to win in the whole thing, I think OKC is the way to go.
Like for a legit bet, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to just try to mess around and get extra money, maybe you take a chance on the Pacers. But
Hmm.
if you want to be right, Thunder's the way to go. But then again, I don't even at this stage, I don't know what kind of value you're getting then. So
That's
you'd
true.
have to take that into account too. But yeah, if I mean the odds got it, that's the way to go with the Thunder. Just the way they've played and just the matchups. Like
Hmm.
they have a lot of. I mean, The only thing though is Pacers can score too, though. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
that's and it's not like Oklahoma. I know they got a couple guys here and there that can kind of play a little D, but if anybody could score with them, I'd probably put the Pacers up there of any of the teams left,
yeah.
obviously.
Well, and I think it goes to say too, because I was talking to somebody that I know frequently watches the NBA the other day, and he because I had mentioned, oh, do you take a flyer on OKC now to see if you can make a little money, to the end, and he's like, yeah, Pacers are fun though too. He's like, he mentioned, that team. He's like, that team was built right. He's like, because you've got, a player like Halliburton, obviously, that can do some of the other things, and he's, a dish guy first most of the time. And then you bring in a Siakam who can put up some numbers and score. And it's just like they built it to have the right balance. And I think that's so much now about what the NBA is. Obviously, you've got your superstars, and you're always going to have them to rely on for so much. But to win, at the end of the day, you've ultimately got to have those role players that fit the spot the right way and that can actually put up points. And I think they're a good example of what that means.
Yeah, I mean, right now, your probably best bet is obviously looking at just one book I have pulled up here. Thunder's minus 255, so not a ton just to be the winner.
Mm.
Pacers are plus 500. So you might be wanting to look at something like, you know, how much kind of pick the series.
Oh yeah.
Whether winning 4 games, winning five, something like that might be your better set right now because it looks like we're too late in the game to get any
To get
value
that,
on
yeah,
the prohibitive favorite. But those Pacers fans plus 500 is
yeah. Why
pretty
not?
good. Throw
Yeah,
a little bit of cheese on that, you'd be doubly happy.
yeah. That's not bad for being one step away from the final series. That's not bad at all. Um, one thing I did want to ask you about too, because we're both basketball guys, and just watching it in general. I will say there's been a lot of commentary and talk about the way Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays, and kind of the movement. I don't know. I've kind of been on the fence on this a little bit because I think there's something to the fact that he obviously has a quick enough first step that he gets most guys in the wrong position to begin with, but there also is something to the fact of just being like lower your head and go crazy kind
Yeah.
of thing. And that's what people hate sometimes watching basketball. And I get it because there's been a few of those highlights where I'm like, man, that would piss me right off. Like, especially if I'm out there playing against the guy. Like, oh, I don't know. What are your thoughts on like kind of how he plays and some of those calls that he does get?
And unfortunately, I'm kind of out on damn near everybody in the league anymore the way they play. But it's also a lot of it's how it's officiated and how it's
Mm-hmm.
called. If you're gonna get somebody to do it and give them the call, why the hell wouldn't you keep doing it?
Yeah,
And that's a lot of it. It's like, of course, say you want to blame the player, but it's just they want points, and that's a way to get points. So I don't care for it. Like honestly, like I've said before, like, I want offense, but I also want like legitimate offense and
mm-hmm.
not 35 trips to the free throw line to get you 27 points like
Yeah,
that. That's not offense. That's just crap. So yeah, I don't care for his style of play, honestly. Like, and that was my deal. Like, even when like LeBron came to the Lakers or Luka, I'm like, I want them to be good because they're playing for the Lakers now, but I don't necessarily care for the way they play. And I mean, even with like goes back to like even in like the early 2000s when like the flopping like really started with like
mm-hmm.
Divots and those guys, and it's like this is not basketball. Like I,
Mm-hmm.
I get that you had to do something to stop like someone like the likes of Shaq and stuff, but it was just like that was kind of just like once you start one way until you put the kibosh on it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to keep going more and more. And then they kind of got to the breaking point there where you had the Pistons winning the title, scoring like 80 points a game. Like, this isn't good because nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Because why would you? Like, that was just ugly. So then they went back the other way where it's like can't play defense at all, can't hand check, can't and I understand like you want to have something. You can't have that Detroit style of basketball where it's just
No.
so ugly and miserable to watch. But they've kind of almost hit that other ceiling again, and we need to like
Yeah.
kind of
Rein
recorrect
it back in.
recorrect and go back the other way. But yeah, I don't Gilgis Alexander. even Anthony Edwards. Like I know he's not quite the flopper, but he's with his antics are damn near up there as well. If he doesn't get the call or that type of thing, and I know everybody kind of complains, but he's a little bit kind of that way too. Just there's not many guys that just kind of play the game anymore, and that's just that's across the board, and not even team that I want to be good. I don't really think anybody. There's not many left that kind of just. And I'm not even saying you have to be like that freaking boring, like old schools type of thing, but it's just like it's the way that they let the way they force the game to be called and the way it's played. It's not the way they to me it's not fun to watch. Like I don't want to see guys like just every play doing that or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I mean, go watch that freaking. I don't like some of their rules either, but go watch the last Olympic Games or whatever, and that style of offense at least.
Yeah.
You can do that without
Yep.
without the flopping and stuff. Like there wasn't much of that going on there, and I don't like the goaltending rules they have there, where you can take it off the rim
Yeah,
or
that's
that
dumb.
the skinnier paint and that type of thing. But
Mhm.
and the inconsistency is even more so on that. But the NBA wanted to be a star league. Goes back to even like Jordan and Magic Johnson, kind of where it really Bird, where it really started, and that's what they want. This is kind of the point you got with if you're going to give the big name the calls,
That's where it
that's
goes. Yeah.
that's the result you're going to get.
Hmm.
It's not probably ideal for everybody, but that's kind of what they're living in. But I think you could still do something and not go all the way that they have so far.
Yeah, I agree, and it's just like I've seen a couple of those highlights where they've
Well, he's
shown.
not even being touched in he's all like
Yeah,
contorted,
hasn't
and no
even.
one's
Yeah,
really it was because that was the one that really made the rounds. Like nobody was making contact with him, and it looked like he had like got punched from two
yeah,
different ways. Like what I don't know what's that movie where it's like it's like one of those stupid spoofs that just came out, and it's like the guy just gets beat up all the time, and like he's supposed to be protecting his family. Like I don't know. Either
oh
way,
yeah,
but it's like literally like he got like punched in two different directions, but nobody had touched him. I'm like, I mean, maybe he's got a future in acting. I know he's got a couple
yeah,
commercials there, but
yeah.
damn, that was a little bit too much even for probably a Thunder fan if they're being honest with you.
Yeah, no kidding. And that, well, and that's just like that's such an extreme when we talk about and we know like how freaking talented and how athletic these guys are now, and then you're pulling shit like that, like
Yeah, you don't need to
win
do
it
it.
with your talent, like it just it doesn't make any sense. So I'm totally with you, and obviously that's been a long standing argument from a lot of people of why they don't want to watch professional basketball, and it's leaked down to the college game too. And don't get me wrong, it's not just a one league problem, but those types of things do deter people away, and hopefully it does at some point course correct it. I don't like to see that either. Moving on to the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, I'll let you know where that stands. The Oilers are up 2-1 in their series over the Stars. They won 6-1 yesterday there to go up a game in that series. And then the Panthers have been blowing the doors off the Hurricanes. They have scored at least 5 goals in the first 3 games of the series, 6 in their last one on Saturday to win it 6-2, and they're up 3-0 in that series. And it looks like the defending champs may be well on their way to doing that again because they're just playing so tough. I'm not surprised that they're going to win this series, but I am surprised at the way it's playing out because the Hurricanes, the way that they played, just such a fast pace, like to put the puck on goal a lot. They were doing that in other series, and that just hasn't panned out now here against a different team. Now, whether that's just straight matchups, and the Florida's got the right formula to slow them down, I don't know. I'm not a smart enough hockey guy to know that, but just really shocking that you can't put up some more goals, and B, that you're just getting your butts whooped here in the conference finals. Pretty impressive stuff from Florida. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. I have been impressed too with Edmonton, just the way that they've continued to try to kind of persevere. I was hard on them and down on them earlier in the playoffs, just because they've underachieved so much with the talent that they have on that team. But it does look like now that they're kind of got that footing. It could be, and I do think the Stars are still going to make this a fun series, but it does look like it's going to be that Edmonton-Florida finals, and that could be a really good series. I think that Edmonton has enough of the firepower to keep pace with a team like Florida that's been playing so well. And that could make for a lot of fun. I think the NHL would be pretty pleased to see that happen and have some of their stars, like a McDavid, shine in the finals.
Yeah, someone who just hops in, here and there, especially when it comes later in the year to the betting aspect of it, man. Stick with those Panthers and the goal lines or the total goals they're getting per game. Anything, even 5.5 under, take the overs because they just freaking mollywop that goal like them.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they lose, they're scoring a lot. So stay on that one. I would advise people of that, and just kind of along that mindset there, that line there is like if you ask just like because I mean it's good that it's more like more accessible there, but it's still kind of one of the fading sports, unfortunately, in the popularity at least across the country. But you ask somebody like who's one of the dominant teams here in the league the last couple of years, like how many are gonna say Florida Panthers? Like
That's true. Yeah, you're
I
a
mean,
casual
it's
fan.
just
Yeah.
so wild. I mean, not even just, of course, like everybody plays indoors, so the weather doesn't matter. But
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't think like a Florida team in hockey doesn't really. I mean, of
Yeah.
course you can get in, but that just shows you I guess, the commitment they've made to that franchise and getting the players and getting a good coach and all that type, getting your system in place because obviously it can be done anywhere in pro sports. It's just a matter of wanting to spend the money and kind of go for it and say, whatever happens, happens. Let's
Yeah.
put all our chips in.
Well, and what's so interesting about that too is that this isn't the first team. Like Tampa Bay has been so
Yeah.
dominant for such a long time. Like there's here two Florida teams that have just been absolutely awesome on the ice, and
I mean, you get those Canadians, they want to live by the beach and they'll
maybe
do
that's what
anything
it
to get
is.
down there.
Maybe yeah, maybe that's what there's like. Oh man, there's more places in the world, and like
Yeah.
I'll play out my ass for this.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it does also have to do with the fact that sometimes, especially in the sport of hockey, if you can find a goalie that is worth two shits,
Yeah.
you're going to end up being a pretty good team. Sergei Bobrovsky happens to be that guy for Florida here currently. Andre Vasilevsky was that and still is a little bit for the Lightning. So that comes and goes sometimes too, but still they built a lot of good pieces around those guys and both those teams. And a lot of it too has been done through the draft. I mean, you look at these teams have been down towards the bottom. Man, it wasn't that long ago that Florida was picking pretty high, and they got Ekblad. Was one of the guys that they got at that time on the defensive side. So, it's interesting to see how that progression does happen, and of course that's the way it's set up. That's the way the leagues want it to happen too. But yeah, certainly have had some success down there in the South for sure. Going to be fun to watch and see how that plays out. Like I said, that finals could be really good, and we hope because obviously the conference finals right now still haven't quite lived up to what we want them to be here at this point, as far as a casual fan perspective is concerned. But yeah, keep looking at those goal totals and the puck lines there, and that might be your way to go with Florida. That's a little bit there on the Stanley Cup side. We do want to mention a couple of things here on college football. These are just kind of quick hitters. A little bit of a story. First off, on a formatting procedure, and we knew this was coming. The college football playoff, the committee did officially vote on the format change. The seeding now is going to be determined strictly by the college football playoff standings, which we kind of knew was coming. After last year, a lot of people, moaned and complained about the way it worked was the top four power conferences, their champions were the top four seeds just automatically. And I think it makes sense. A lot of people were arguing. The problem you're going to run into, obviously, and this is just what it is. We know that there's bias for certain leagues, and especially that one that goes SEC. And so those guys are going to be ranked higher, and they're going to have better odds of having teams that end up ranked in that top four. And that's just the way it's going to be, even though, another conference's champions might have a better record by a game or even two. I could see happening at some point down the road. But at the end of the day, I do think that when it comes to a ranking system, following that for the seeding probably does make sense. So, this will eliminate, I guess, some of that whining part of it.
Yeah, not surprising. Basically, whenever it leaks out, you kind of know it's like, oh, this is what's coming. They're just, I guess, giving you a heads up, if you will. So, just said last time, just let's go ahead and keep it this way for a little bit. We don't need to change it every time, somebody gets a hair up their ass or whatever. Like, just let's just go. So here's what we got. Keep this for a few years, and then we'll go from there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Obviously,
just yeah,
it's a
it's
band-aid.
more the roller coaster thing that's more of a that it's like just figure it out and just stick with something and let's go ahead and play ball and go where they may, because if you're that good, you don't need all these advantages.
Yeah. The one little wrinkle it does sound like too, though, and as I was reading the details, is that conference champions will still have a little bit of a preference when it comes to beyond the top four, because that's what people were concerned about, was the top four with the bye. But the conference champions beyond that are going to have a little bit of preference moving up on that seeding scale. So I think that also makes sense. Hopefully it'll work out for the best for everybody. We'll see. Obviously, last year, didn't maybe mean much to have that bye anyways. So that's the way it goes.
Well, I mean, if you win your conference, you should have it. Like that's a lot. Says a lot more than a week or two here. That's a body of work. So
yeah. Little note from the University of Oklahoma. They came out with a story saying that they were laying off 5% of their athletic department due to looming revenue sharing with players. I don't know. This is interesting because it obviously, from reality standpoint, probably is a little bit of a spin piece. Because they want you to think that the world sky is falling and they can't afford anything anymore. And then the kicker is that the AD came out and said, well, I'm going to be reducing my $2 million salary by a bit. Well, apparently it wasn't enough to save everybody else's job. But
couldn't have done that before, and they just like, oh, I'll take this cut and then you guys can keep your jobs. But I guess two things, like you said, they're trying to point the finger at the other party. And then on top of that, it's like probably have too many people on staff to begin with. If you can't afford that with the money that these schools are bringing in, it has none. I mean, all that money that's going out is almost like surplus. And not only that, now you're getting the 20 million they say or whatever. That's like basically designated for NIL. That's not coming out of the budget or anything like that. So, yeah, it's more just kind of like, I guess, basically, I don't. Maybe they have some issues going on there internally, or people that follow the team might know better. But it seems kind of odd with a team that you would think would have a better handle on things there with how much they're in the headlines or how much they spend and that type of thing. So maybe there's some other issues going on there that I guess they didn't exactly have a great season last year. So maybe there's some issues they're trying to clean up, and this is one way to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, that's a good point too. Of all the teams that you'd think that would, be making some sort of statement like this or announcing something like this, it wouldn't be them. One of the name brands of the sport.
Yeah, they always say the have and the have-nots. Well, you would consider them as one of the haves, supposedly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see. I mean, I legit can see some of these smaller programs having an issue, especially when it comes outside of the power conferences. Yeah, that's a problem. Like, they have to figure things out. They don't generate as much revenue. They don't fill 60,000 people in the stadium every week.
Well, they don't have somebody they can call up and just be like, I need a couple million.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of these schools do. Like, they just do. Someone that's kind of on hold. Like, what do you need? I'm here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other side of it too. Also, is now you have more flexibility than ever to do that. Now it's for whatever reason you can call them up and give me this for whatever, like to pay a player, like they can do that now. So I don't know, it doesn't really track a lot, especially like you said with that university. So be interesting. I don't know. We're gonna get much more of a clearer picture, I think, once that stuff starts to actually happen, and then we start to see bottom lines, and there'll be things out there from public universities that we know how this actually is working and not working. So that's I guess to be determined a little bit, but is interesting that they would make even a comment about it. Last thing we wanted to touch on was we wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of an end of an era as far as a program is concerned, and and neither one of us are like uber fans of the mothership, so to speak. But there are good things that have come out of the ESPN world, and obviously, being such a major player in the coverage of sports in general, you watch a lot of their content, whether or not you think it's a great organization or not. You're going to, but there have been some programs that we really appreciate and we really, I guess, kind of admire or whatever. But one of them that I guess in our opinion is kind of a last bastion of journalism, so to speak, at the
Mm-hmm.
network, is going away. And that was Around the Horn. It had its final episode here this past week. And there was a little interview that Tony Reale, the host of the program, did with Dan Patrick here recently, where he kind of laid his cards out on the table, talked a little bit about how things ended and what his future looks like. And but yeah, certainly a program that was very interesting, I think, to people when it started, because I don't know how people reacted and knew how to take it, because it wasn't your traditional TV talking heads. They basically brought in writers, who are real journalists, and had them on TV and give their opinions and takes and talk about sports. And that's what it was all about. And it was on for 23 seasons, so almost 5,000 episodes. Obviously, something was right about the show. But interesting how it's come to an end, and I guess interesting, really, some of the comments that he made about why it is ending.
Yeah, I mean, outside of like the big show, what it became known as in the early days, the
Mm-hmm.
10 p.m. Eastern Sports Center, or I guess 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. That these are kind of like the main shows, at least for me, was this. But before that, you had Cancel with sports reporters in the morning. I think it was Sunday morning, I believe, is when they started. But basically, it was you get a round table type thing and kind of discuss sports issues, but like bigger than just like last night's game. It was like kind of like a cultural type of thing, or like something that extended beyond the sports world that affected people in their lives, something to that effect, a little bit more than that. And then even outside the lines, went even deeper
Mm-hmm.
with Bob Lee there. They really dug into some stuff, and then kind of a spinoff of that was that E60 that Jeremy Schaap did.
Mm-hmm.
After after kind of following his dad's footsteps, who was a hell of a reporter in his day.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of just along those lines of like the outside lines kind of spin off, and that I think they still do some stuff here or there with that. Maybe not as much, but I mean, to me, like especially college era and late high school, like man, I kind of really kind of dug into PTI there early on, but they got a little crotchety, a little cranky for me, just kind of the same thing over and over. But Around the Horn was like a little bit something different, but you still got kind of like the news of the day, but with a little bit more like not the polish on it. You just got it like how somebody would tell you if they were talking to you like in a sports bar, or you're sitting around at the house, or like let's say somebody that writes for something, or has a important job in the sports journalism world, but them, so they're telling you what actually is happening, and not like
Mm-hmm.
how you like present it to like not piss off this guy, not piss off that guy, keep your sources intact. So when I'm as far as the format stuff too, is almost like kind of genius. It was kind of game show type thing, so you kind of put people's guards down, and they're willing to kind of like maybe give you a little more than they might have in a canned interview or something, where they're coming on your radio show, but they're like, I'm not going to talk about this, I'm not going to talk about that. You can ask me this, you can ask me that. That was kind of off limits there. So and then there's also kind of fun always, especially talk about. I always thought he was an asshole. I didn't care for him just because he was a freaking Colorado sports writer. But Woody Page with his board was always kind of funny. That part was funny.
Yeah.
Him himself, he kind of had him. He's kind of like a TJ Simers, where they had the same shtick, where it's like, if anybody didn't live in the state they lived in, they just lived in the middle of a field or something. So they kind of just always win the same bullshit columns. But on the show, he was pretty entertaining, kind of funny. So I'll give him credit for that. But I mean, they had some serious stuff happen. I mean, him, especially, I guess Woody had some depression issues, and Woody pretty close to suicidal at times. And then Tim Kalishaw, who was I don't know if he's still with the Dallas Morning News, but he was for a long time at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he had a addiction that he kind of overcame and did that with the show. And then even somebody else kind of coming out on the show, I guess. So I mean, there was like a kind of a real deal for them. They almost, even though they were kind of like, and I thought we learned this shit during, COVID, but apparently we forgot about it. But you don't necessarily have to be like sitting in the same room as somebody to like build a connection. And like, like as we do this every week,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in the same location, but we have a conversation. We kind of connect. We talk about old shit. Remember this, and you kind of build that. It's the same thing. It's like you can't always be in the same place, but why wouldn't you utilize technology available to like talk to somebody that you want to talk to?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically what it was. It's not that complicated, but apparently it wasn't good enough for ESPN, which is weird because when you talk about that interview, it's like it's from the sounds of it, and of course this is one side of the story, but reality was basically saying, and he was kind of like I guess he was had what was in the negotiations or whatever when it was coming to the end. Is he the way he told it basically is like whatever we got to do to tweak it here and there, like I'm willing to do it, and I guess it just wasn't met. So I'm guessing Skip Bayless maybe making a comeback or something like that. So we will see. But Barkley's going to get his own talk show.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's so disappointing for probably most folks is like, okay, well, what are you going to replace this with? I mean, another two guys yelling at each other thing, like that's what they kind of built their brand on now. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, like you said, I think it was cool to get that little bit of an insight from, what were kind of more the day-to-day guys. Like, these guys are like, they're beat writers, they're actually following teams, covering stuff constantly. Like they have a lot to do outside of doing this show. So it was interesting, I guess, to get their insight and to have a little bit of, further knowledge about a team than just, your average national host would have. So that was a unique thing about the show. And like you said, it brought some reality to it because you didn't know what somebody was going to bring up, what topic they were going to talk about, and the other people then have to react to it. Like that it just was there. And like you said, some of the, the intense, like real topics, real life shit, like, and that's good for people. And I did see, and I'm going to watch the rest of you've watched the interview, but I'm going to watch the rest of it. But I did see in part of the interview there that reality said, like, some people, I guess, complained maybe about some of those situations where it was the real life stuff, and some people calling it quote unquote woke or whatever. I don't know why it's woke to talk about something that's more intimate to your life, but whatever. But he said, if you told me that, I did, almost 5,000 episodes of a show and I had 10 or 15 topics that raised somebody's eyebrow, yeah, hell yeah, I'd tell them that great. Yeah. That's what we did. Fine. He's like, I didn't try to put a limit on what anybody wanted to do or talk about. It sounds like he was a super encouraging guy too, as far as like connecting with all those guys that were on the show and, encouraging them and kind of, giving them the leg up. I'm like, here's what the show's about. Here's what you can bring to the table, kind of thing. And obviously they rotated a lot of different pieces and faces throughout it. And that also makes it unique too. The fact that you're not seeing the same people all the time. So it certainly was I think, I don't know, you guess you can use the word groundbreaking because it is different, kind of program and feel. It'll be interesting to see if it lives on in some kind of variety and form, because he sure sounded like he wanted that to happen. But still, definitely a unique program that I think did change a lot about what we think of as sports TV.
Well, yeah, and then sounded like if you win, you got the 5 good minutes. Sound like that wasn't, there's not. It's literally your 5 minutes to talk about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a big risk there because who knows? Of course, it's not totally live, so you could, something went off the rails, but still, it's a little bit of a risk there to get that much of a leash there. So, I was always kind of myself wondering, I'm like, man, I wonder how you even, how you get on this show, because that'd be, I mean, almost like getting on it would be like kind of like a badge of honor or something, because it's like you only four out of the whole country, per episode. That's a pretty big deal. So it kind of, I haven't watched it in years, just because, I mean, I've caught bits and pieces, on social media posts they have and that type of thing, but as far as schedule and stuff. Most people can't watch daytime TV. It's still
Yeah.
on pretty early in the day. But yeah, that was kind of sucks to see it go when some of the other shows that they have on that network are still going strong for God knows what reason.
Very true. Very true. Be fun to see what does happen, I guess, with reality here
Maybe
coming
they'll
in the
go to
future.
maybe they'll take the show to hopefully do some good negotiating. They can take the show to some streaming service or online deal or
Yeah.
something. Keep it going because you don't have to change much. That's a popular show. I guarantee that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It will be interesting too to see what changes down the road and what replaces it too, and how that whole world morphs. So obviously we've seen a lot of that change just naturally because of away from traditional to digital world. I mean that has changed a lot too, and things can live in different ways that they couldn't before. So yeah, that definitely is a possibility. Be fun to watch. That's kind of what we had on our slate here this week. I did want to give one quick shout out before we finish up too, because I didn't mention this on the last show. But a shout out to the horse journalism. Hell of a comeback in that Preakness to win the race. I mean, I know it wasn't hyped up because we didn't have the Triple Crown threat anymore, but man, was that an exciting finish. He came charging down the backstretch. We didn't mention it on the last show, and I felt bad after we were done. I was like, oh man, because I saw the recap and stuff, and that was one hell of a charge. Maybe he's got something left in the tank here for the Belmont too.
Yeah, that's the always kind of the downside we talked about with that discussion. It's like once if they don't win the first one, it's like who gives a shit? But still, there's still plenty of money to be made. And I mean, even if you don't do anything else, just flip it on right before the race starts. It's always a good time and a fun watch, and it's always fun to pick a pony and see what happens.
Exactly. Only a couple minutes. That's all it takes. All right, that's going to be wrap it up here for this week. We appreciate you joining us. Again, if you would like our picks from time to time, you can follow us on social media at SJM Bets, at Cherokee CP. Those are our handles on Twitter. You can like and share the podcast, available in all the major platforms, including our host at Spotify. And then if you would like us, share and subscribe the YouTube channel as well. That's where we'll make some of our video picks there, as we have big events throughout the year also. So I hope you check that all out. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.